Hello and welcome to your match reaction pod here on Four Lads Had a Dream. My name's Andrew and I'm joined tonight by my very favourite podder, Stevie. Unfortunately, nothing happy to talk about despite what we talked about on the Friday pod. Rangers with a gutless performance, resulting in a 2-0 defeat that consigns Rangers to 10th in the league. Russell Martin getting 4 draws and a loss in his first 5 games in the league, the worst record of any Rangers manager's first 5 games, as far as I'm aware, and puts Hearts into top, which all credit to them. But Stevie, you were obviously at the game. I had the pleasure of watching it on TV. Dire today, honestly, just a poor performance from team to manager. No one in there came out with any credit today.
Yeah, it's difficult to sum up that game, Andrew, actually, because angry just at what we were watching. I said, we've seen some real shit in this Ibrox team for a long time and gone through some horrendous managers and spells and stuff like that. But it's difficult to remember a Rangers team that looked as clueless and as out of shape as we did in that first half. And it genuinely looked like we had met 5 minutes ago out in the car park and pieced ourselves together. In fact, actually, we might have looked better if that was the case. We were just a total mess. There was no shape there. There was absolutely nothing. And well done to Hearts. I'm not going to come in here and complain. I thought Hearts were good. They started off with tempo. Halkett had an early chance. And then Shankland had an early shot, and it was visible from word go that Hearts were up for it and Rangers were just not. And I think this is inevitable, Andrew. The way it works, the way it's going to work out, and what's going to happen with it. I think it is. We'll come to that in a while, but it's a total mess. I said ages ago, and I got an interesting reaction for saying you could have Erling Haaland in our number 9 position and it wouldn't matter because we do not create anything. We do not create any chances. Our midfield is non-existent. The defence is at 6 and 7s with each other. They don't know when to step up. They don't know when to stay. They don't follow runners and stuff like that. And by the way, that Lawrence Shankland first goal, put the handball thing aside, we don't tackle. Like, it's so easy for Hearts. They just knock the ball about, and eventually we don't follow runners. We don't follow, we don't go to block. We're not aggressive. It's just, it's really disheartening to watch. And, as I said, fair play to Hearts. They were very, very comfortable, but this is genuinely the worst I can remember Rangers looking in a long time. And you're supposed to get a bounce. You're supposed to look good. These players look like they've chucked it. Already, I don't think they understand what they're supposed to do. I don't think we understand the formation and the tactics, which are supposed to be deployed, which apparently we were seeing. It's just, Andrew, it's just a mess. And there's no point trying to sugarcoat it. Me and Davey had the absolute disaster of trying to do a match day vlog for that today. And you can't do it. I mean, what are you supposed to say? There's no point in lying to the viewers and say, there's bits and pieces. It was dreadful. I mean, this is a mess, and I sadly don't see it getting any better. And I think it's obvious what needs to happen. So, it's just a matter of how much pain do we have to suffer before we actually get there. Ibrox was horrible today. It was a really difficult atmosphere. It was really uncomfortable. And I think that when it gets to that stage, when the fans are so blatantly critical and aggressive in their nature, then it's only going to go one way. And by the way, it's quite inhumane as well for Russell Martin to go through this, because he's not a dislikable guy as a person, but that matters absolutely not when we watch what we're watching on the pitch, which is a Rangers team that's a complete mess, Andrew.
I think the damning thing for me is that you could potentially question the decisions. You could say there was a handball in the lead up. You could question the award of the penalty. But if you set those aside, we still didn't create enough to win this game. We didn't do enough to impose ourselves, because this is at home. This is at Ibrox. This is a place that Hearts haven't won at in over 4,000 days. Or, sorry, hadn't won in over 4,000 days. And we played with such meekness. We were bullied off the ball constantly. We didn't impose our play onto the game. The service to Miovski was non-existent. Our wingers were marked out the game. I think our wingers were probably playing in the wrong positions as well, because Kasama has never looked comfortable on the right. Mikey Moore doesn't particularly look comfortable out on the left either. So we failed to impose ourselves onto this game. We failed to set the tone. And we played appallingly as a result. And setting aside the fact that we deliberately weakened ourselves by not including probably our best player of last season, leaving them out of the squad entirely, not even giving yourself the option of being able to bring him on later on. We set ourselves up for failure and then delivered on that over the course of 90 minutes. We just completely failed to embrace this challenge, to deal with it as a whole. And I will say, Stevie, all credit to you and Davey in the vlog, and all credit to you and the other Davey in the post-match as well, because I think you said all you could say. There's nothing that you could say that was a positive out of this game. Even the guys on Rangers TV, you know, we had a decent 5-minute spell when Joe Rothwell came on. But if that's all you can point to in the course of a 97-minute game, you're really clutching at straws at that point.
Yeah, we are. Talk about the press conference, I think, Andrew, in a bit. Obviously, there's been a lot of feedback from that. Talk about that in a bit. But on the actual performance, I mean, yeah, we did look slightly better for 5 or 10 minutes when Joe Rothwell come on, who looked a wee bit more fitter and adventurous and, you know, tried to drive the team on, which, you know, was great and which we expected. But it's taken 60-odd minutes for that to happen. We continuously let halves pass us by being so passive. We lack a structure. How many times did John Suter and Nasajiga have it today at centre back and dribble into trouble because nobody moves and there's no pass for them at all, even to shunt it wide to the wing backs who were completely out of position. McHoma was so far up on the left. James Tavernier on the right was the only kind of out ball, and then he didn't have a ball in front of him. Why we've got Kasama out on the right-hand side when he was the shining light on the left will continue to confuse me. You know, Thelwell Asgard talked in his press conference yesterday about his favourite position being on the left, so it's naturally fucking apparent that Russell Martin puts him on the right. All of these things are baffling to me. You know, Nico Raskin's situation should have been handled better. And by the way, if Nico is out of the team for questioning his tactics, can anyone actually blame him? Because Nico wants to win, and that's the position we're in. But we'll not go off on that tangent again. We concentrate on today. The players looked lost from word go. There was no structure there. There was no apparent build-up of what we've been practicing. There was no, you know, passages of play. There was no attacking movement. The midfield's completely dominated and outfought, and they just look all over the place structurally. There's no passes to be had. And when we do get the ball, the passing isn't good enough. Excuse me. And then to get it to the wide men, it's so slow, Andrew. It's like 3 passes to get it out wide when one will really do if you've got a wee bit of adventure about you. And what I don't understand is they are quite happy, and how it looks to myself, they're quite happy to knock it about the box and play these passes which are at times like, what are you doing, lads? But they won't play an adventurous pass in the final third. They won't do that at all. And Hearts were they were well set up, well organised, exactly as you would expect a Derek McInnes team to be. They had 2 good front men up front and a midfield that was strong and a team that knew what they were doing. They knew when to press, they knew when to trigger. This Rangers team doesn't press, it doesn't trigger, it doesn't move. There's no points of which, you know, when it goes to a certain player, the team move and the team go. Nothing like that, Andrew. It's all down to coaching and lack of it. And if it isn't a lack of it, and we'll come to his press conference stuff in a minute, then they truly don't believe it as a team. And that's even more worrying that we're 5 league games in and this is what we're watching. as I said, there's no point in trying to sugarcoat that. That 45 minutes today in the first half was as lost as I've ever seen a Rangers team with regards to passing, movement, joined up thinking, positioning, everything. It was just a mess. And our centre backs were constantly getting stuck with the ball. John Suter got dribbling because they had no options and nobody was wanting the ball to come to it. And it's just miles away from being good enough, mate.
Yeah. There was a moment in the first 20 minutes, I think, that was telling for me. Ball comes back to Jack Butland, surprisingly enough. Tav's open on the right-hand side. And you know Tav, despite everything that we've said about him in the past, he's going to try and make something happen and get forward. He's open and he's there. Instead, the ball goes to Suter, then to Giga, then back to Suter, then finally makes its way out to Tav. But that's 30 seconds go by. The entire Hearts team get themselves back into their position. They've got plenty of time. And we've got 5 successful passes in our third. Great. Looks wonderful in the stats. But we create absolutely nothing from it. We just pass around at the back. And it was so emblematic of our play throughout this entire match. Just constantly playing it back with the safe passes. Defence pass between themselves more than the rest of the team put together. We see that constantly. And it suits Hearts perfectly for Suter and Giga to have the ball continuously because it's never going to threaten you. So we can have all the possession and we can have the best passing stats in the league, but we don't have shots on target. We don't have attempts at goal. We just fail to create anything. And it's really just depressing to watch ultimately. My missus is not a football person at all. She watched bits of that game today, in and out. I think she could probably tell by the mood of me and my old man that we weren't exactly pleased with what was happening on screen. But even she was saying, goals at the other end though, right? You're at home, right? Why are you back here? And it would have been really good to say, oh yeah, no, we're building something here. We had nothing. There was no style of play. And we're not exactly like this is the first game of the season, we're just figuring it out. We're 11, 12 games in now. We've got no style of play. We don't see anything here. We're not seeing what we're building towards. And that's the biggest problem that I've got. It would be one thing if we had shoots of growth. We could see things happening. We'd see things that we were building on. At the moment, you can see nothing. There's nothing there that you can point to and go, but when this starts working, then we're going to be working. There was nothing there.
No, there wasn't, sadly. I mean, I said last night, like, nobody expected this to look like prime Barcelona in a short space of time. Nobody expected us to look like the finished article. But what we do ask for is to have a wee bit of progress, a wee bit of positivity, something that we can get behind. Put aside the feelings towards the head coach at the moment in time. We just want to see little bits and pieces in our play and in everything. And, you can talk about the environment, you can talk about Ibrox being expectant and stuff like that. See, if you haven't got the balls to play here, you shouldn't be here in the first place. And if we've signed more players that can't handle that physically and mentally, then more fool the people that put them there in the first place. Because it's not like they weren't warned. We spoke extensively to people at the club in the summer, had our say, we warned of things that were most likely to happen. And 5 games in, it's already happening. We continue to make the same mistakes. And on the pitch, it reflects that. And Andrew, just, there's not a lot to talk about in the first half. You can talk about the goal that Hart scored and potentially it being a handball by Shanklin. I think it was. But Hearts would have found a way to score a goal today because they were by far the better team than Rangers were. And Rangers offered nothing. What was it? A Thelwell shot that kind of got tipped over, hit the bar, which was a cross-come shot. But we create absolutely nothing from Majowski. We create nothing from our wide players. Midfield 2 of Diamandi and Barron run about a lot, but they don't do actually a lot. The defence, the centre-backs look out of shape. They look easily undone. They look miles apart at times. The fullbacks are completely nullified by their positions. The wingers don't get the ball quickly enough. There's no patterns of play. We don't look dangerous from set pieces at all. There's no danger there in the slightest. And it's all just, it's very boring and stagnated to watch. We're so passive. This dominating football that we were told about is just nowhere near even coming to fruition. Never mind anything else. And yeah, we get it. It's going to take time. Absolutely get it's going to take time. But Andrew, we need to see something. We need to see little shorts of growth, little shorts of growth, rather, and little signs of positivity. We're seeing nothing. We're seeing a team that's getting worse by the second. We're seeing players that are getting worse by the second. And we're seeing a management on the sidelines who have got their head in the sand so quickly. They've dumped their early ideologies to something that resembles even worse than what we were. And the players certainly don't look like they're buying into it, and they certainly don't look like they trust what the instructions are being given either. Can you honestly watch that today and say they're all running through a brick wall for that head coach? Because I can't. And I don't think they believe in it, Andrew.
No, I'm completely in agreement with you, mate. But I think the problem is, even if they were willing to run through a brick wall, I don't know what they're trying to achieve. I have no idea what the game plan is here. And we should be seeing that at least. We should be seeing something. We don't see anything at the moment from this team. We just see constant, possession for possession's sake, and then passing to guys who have got 3 Hearts players surrounding them, immediately getting crowded out. It's abysmal football. And I was saying this to my old man today. This is the worst league start I've ever seen. It's the worst league start he's ever seen. Supporting Rangers 60 odd years. Even when we came back under Warburton, came back into that first season back in the Premiership, we were still picking up results. We were still getting wins. We were still, if we got draws, we were unlucky to get draws. This at the moment, we're not seeing anything. And we're not even seeing, as you say, any shoots of growth. We're not seeing potential even. We're just seeing dire football under a squad of players who I think are better than they are being allowed to show by tactics from a manager who is determined to play in a way that does not suit Scottish football. It's truly depressing to watch. We don't have anything to cling on to at the moment. And that's the most exciting thing.
You see, the thing is, Andrew, when you talk about the players, we talk about the players. I don't think you can judge the players in the slightest, because this isn't working at all. And I don't think you can judge the players. I mean, this may be wildly off, but I think we've got some good talent there, and they're not being allowed to show it. Look at Oliver Antman. Burst onto the scene, and we thought this guy's going to be good, and then all of a sudden, a couple of weeks with training and a couple of weeks at his football club, and he looks like a guy that's terrified to receive a pass. So I don't think you can judge that in the slightest. There's no way that Bojan Majowski is a player that we saw today, because he's just not getting the ball. He's not getting chances. So I'm reserved on that. We've kind of went 20 minutes roundabout of saying this, but Russell Martin needs to be removed as quickly as possible. I have tried really, really not to go down this route, and especially not so quickly, not to overreact, not to say these things, but it's impossible not to believe that, Andrew. I mean, he will still have supporters in the ground, I understand that, but the majority of the fans want this man out immediately. And I don't think this is going to work. And fundamentally, I need Rangers to be winning. I want to enjoy football. I want to enjoy Rangers as a club. And at the moment, it's just a black hole. Like, every match day, you go to watch Russell Martin and this team, and it's just, you don't believe in it. You don't believe in what he's trying to do. You don't believe in the formation. You don't believe in tactics. it's awful. And Bruges was huge alarm bells. And I'll be honest with you, and I said this at the time, that post-match I done with Kenny was one of the hardest pods we've ever had to do. And I actually felt kind of bad. I'm like, Steve, you can't go down this route again. You can't overreact to this. Bruges are this, that, and everything else, and blah blah blah. But it's ignoring every single alarm bell that I'm hearing. That this guy isn't good enough, and that he's bluffed his way into this job, and it's a huge mistake, and we're not going to rectify it. Andrew, Bruges should have been the wake-up call for this board that they needed. The following games that we saw since St Mirren, etc., should have been further warning to them that they have to fix this quickly. If today doesn't wake them up further, then it's going to get bad, because Hibs come Ibrox next week in the League Cup, and it's sad to say this, but they'll be favourites. They're a good side going forward. They actually watched them in Europe, and I thought they were good value and really unlucky. They will come and beat us next week. And that's not me being pessimistic. That's just me being realistic on what we're watching, which is a Rangers team that's an absolute shell. Russell Martin needs to go immediately. And we then need to shine the spotlight on Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart. Kevin Thelwell, especially for that club interview he did a couple of weeks ago. Russell Martin is, one of the best he's worked with and everything else. That's absolutely fine. You can fall on your sword as well, I'm afraid, Kevin. As for Patrick, there's too many red flags. There's too many mistakes already in a very short tenure for me to sit here and say that we shouldn't be looking at these guys as well. The WhatsApp rumour isn't true as far as I'm aware at this moment in time, but it will at some point be true, because Russell Martin will be removed unless there's a miracle turnaround. And even if there is a miracle turnaround and he wins a few games, Andrew, this support don't want him. Today was so awkwardly hostile to be in about it and sitting amongst it, because the fans that stayed were only stayed to have a go at Russell Martin and to make their feelings clear. Everybody else left early doors because there's nothing to watch here. Absolutely not. And it's sad to say at this early stage, but Russell Martin, Kevin Thelwell and Patrick Stewart, spotlight is well and truly on the former two. But as for the first one, for Russell Martin, he needs to go really quickly. Otherwise, I don't see a way out of this. I don't see how it suddenly clicks. I don't see how it gets better, because at the moment it's just a mess, and there's no signs of anything. And by the way, I watched Russell Martin quite closely today on the touchline. He had his hands in his pocket the whole time. He wasn't his usual animated self. Matt Gill was next to him quite a few times, especially every time the fans chanted against Russell Martin, Matt Gill stood beside him. I think that's telling. I think there's a man that knows deep down that this isn't working or it isn't going anywhere. Bonnie Blue was at Ibrox today, and even she left embarrassed, and that's saying something, mate. It's fucking grim. It really is, and I've got no time to try and be nice and try and give it time and wait, because how bad does it really have to get? We're 10th in the league. We've not won any of our first 5 games, and by the way, we've not even looked like winning any of our first 5 games. This is Rangers.
Yeah,
it's not acceptable. So fix your mistake. You've made one. Fix it. Russell Martin needs to go right now.
Stevie, we talked during Phil Clement's tenure, and I think we were as generous as we could be, and we said that we made the point repeatedly. He was working with one hand tied behind his back, and he was a shit situation, didn't have people above him, the whole bit. Russell Martin doesn't have any of that. He's got a well-established board above him. He has been backed extensively. He's had more money thrown at him than any Rangers manager in recent history. He's been given all the backing that he needs, and he's got plenty of backing in terms of support from the board. But the results are not good enough. And ultimately, it doesn't matter how well you can make your points or what kind of presentations you can give to the board or anything like that. It always comes back to, can you get results on the pitch? Because if you just keep saying, the lads trained brilliantly and we were just unlucky and we were actually cheated out of a win today, that's not good enough. You're not getting the results. And like you say, next week we've got Hibs coming. Bookies odds are probably going to be in favour for Hibs. And I wouldn't blame them. And if we go out of the cup at this early stage, with our position in the league being as bad as it is, things look very, very grim. Because the next hope that you have is going to be the Europa League. And as we're playing at the moment, I wouldn't fancy our chances against anyone in that. And then we've got to wait until January for the Scottish Cup to start, by which point we could be well humiliated in the Europa and be well out of sight in the league as well. So, I mean, I'm in agreement with you, Stevie. I don't think Russell Martin should stay on this post a minute longer now, because any game that he's taking for us, he's actively doing damage for us at this point. He's not demonstrated that he's got the ability to get results. And these are his players as well. These are his players. These are guys that he wanted to bring in. These are players that he has signed off on. This is his team, and he can't get results out of them. So it's not like he's in a crap situation, is being forced to work with players who he doesn't like, and he's not got any support, and he's making do with the bare bones of the biscuit tin. He's got support. He's got the players he wants, and he can't get results. If you can't do that in this situation, yes, there's going to be pressure from the fans. It's Rangers. Of course there's going to be pressure from the fans. He knew that before he even signed up for this. So if you can't get results at Rangers Football Club, then I'm sorry, you can't be the manager of Rangers Football Club. It's as simple as that.
Well, it is. I mean, as we said, it wasn't nice. Look, I don't like being in that situation today when it's that toxic towards a manager. When Ibrox is that feeling, everybody that was there today would have known it. It was severely uncomfortable sitting on the gantry. I felt on a human level that was grim. But Andrew, it's Ibrox isn't. It's not for the faint-hearted. It isn't. And I think we need to realise as a football club that we've made a mistake. How long do we let this go on? How painful does it really get before we go, yeah, right, okay, we need to make a change? And it's not like we're sitting saying, right, we're overreacting here because this is a defeat to Hearts. Hearts have started well, right, okay, fine. This is no wins in 5, 10th in the league, 3 goals domestically in the league so far, of which one's been a penalty and 2 from corner kicks. We've not scored from open play yet. We don't look like scoring from open play yet. We look like a train wreck at the other end of the park. We're easily carved apart. The players aren't fighting for the ball. They aren't diving into challenges. They aren't putting their body in the line. None of the things that we expect as the bare minimum are happening. When we get to this stage, this is end of day stuff that normally happens after a year of a manager being in charge, or 2 years or whatever of something not working. It's happened after 5 league games. Stick your head in the sand and say he's the best coach you've ever worked with and one of the best you've ever seen, and things will turn around, and we'll win games, and we'll do it based on what? Because we haven't seen it. We saw 60 minutes against Pils and 40 odd minutes against Panathinaikos. Let's face it, we were pretty shite against Alloa as well, and you could put that down to a lot of changes and just be happy to at least win. But even in that game, there were red flags that, when you consider now, is starting to add up to even worse. So, we can go back and forward all day long, but you can put Ibrox and you could say Ibrox is toxic and we're a toxic support, and we deserve everything we get. You can say whatever you want. The truth is that all sugarcoats the real reason the Rangers are in that mess, and it is Russell Martin. So,
yeah,
make the change and make it quickly. Otherwise, we'll just keep stumbling on. By the way, you could beat Hibs, you could beat Genk. It's unlikely this very moment you could get results in these games, but you then go to Livingston, and odds on Hibs, Genk, Livingston. There's a defeat coming somewhere. There's a bad result coming somewhere. That's the feeling. The feeling isn't we can go and win these games. And that's what's so difficult to kind of deal with. So there's nothing there, Andrew. You can persist with it, and you will. But it's hiding from the reality of what we're seeing on this football pitch, and that's why it needs to change quickly.
Yeah, let's talk about the press conference, because I've had the pleasure to be in a press conference where it's end of days for the manager. I was there for Clement's last press conference that he did as Rangers manager, and you could tell in that room by how poisonous it was, and not in terms of invective being thrown, but in terms of the mood amongst the people in that room. You were obviously at the press conference. Folk will have seen it, will have seen the videos from the Rangers media team. Oddly enough, a little bit of a short press conference. I wonder why. I think you and David Edgar both made the point, which was that the fans only have so much patience. It's bad enough, and we've joked about it in the past, but you need to be showing these fans something. If you can't show the fans anything, then you should not feel surprised that the mood is that bad. And the way that he was that level of dismissive towards the questions that you and Davey put to him, and Edgar made the point, it's all and good to say, you're betting in 11 new players or 12 new players. So are Hearts. Hearts have done exactly the same thing. They look like a unit. They are organised, and they had a game plan, and they stuck to it and did the business. Rangers do not look like they know how to play football at the moment, let alone we're just, a little bit away from the system working. It's a deeply uncomfortable environment right now. And that's tough on a human level. You don't like to see that for anyone. But this is the job. You signed up. You knew you're going to be the Rangers manager. You know it's going to be tough. I do not think Russell Martin's attitude in that press conference was befitting of a Rangers manager. I don't think that his reaction is the right one that you can have when it comes to, yeah, lads, we got beat 2-0 at home from Hearts, who haven't beat us for 4,000 odd days. These things happen, I don't think that's the right approach.
First of all, in a press conference, extremely difficult. The raw emotion of being a supporter in that, and also trying to get your point across properly. And secondly, being aware that the pressure from fans on what you want to ask, or what they want you to ask, or not even what you want you to ask, but what they want you to say to him, is really difficult to balance. So I think there was a desire that was made clear to David and I on the way down from the gantry to the press office, Andrew, and you know how short a walk that is, that Russell Martin was removed, and not only removed, but that we tell him directly, and that doesn't affect David and I, because we get that quite a lot, and I get it and understand the frustration of it, but David and I, first and foremost, are supporters ourselves, so we feel that anyway. And we both knew that we had a line of question that we wanted to pursue. So I appreciate there'll be people that say you shouldn't have been so forward and you shouldn't have asked those questions. I don't mind that, but there's questions that need to be asked of a Rangers manager, and he actually pissed me off. I'll be quite honest with you. The very first question when Chris Jack asked him about the reaction of the fans today, and he was so dismissive. Fans are entitled to think what they want. I can't react to that, etc., etc. Which is why I kind of went down the route that I did, and I asked them, upon the fans have made it clear that they don't want you here. The majority of the fans, you heard Ibrox today. How do you respond to that? And he was so dismissive of his attitude towards me, and that irked me. They didn't want me here anyway, mate. It's not how I would have wanted them to respond. And people say then you shouldn't have asked him if he was going to resign. The amount of times that was said to us from the gantry to that press room, tell him we want him out, ask him if he'll resign, ask him if he'll walk away. We just had 50,000 chanting Martin, get the fuck. The Hearts fans at the end of the game started chanting, you're getting sacked in the morning, and the Rangers fans took over at home and sang it to Russell Martin. They do not want him here. When he came out for the second half, he was booed when he came onto the touchline. So, yeah, I mean, I think it would have been disingenuous of us to be in there today and be in a position where we didn't ask those questions. Davey, I thought, was fantastic, followed it up. The moment when he said about Hearts having new players, I think, was spot on. I went on just after Davey spoke to him and said as well about, Russell, when the fans have given up on you as much as they are, there's no way out, and you need to maybe walk away for the players to be able to grow and get out of that as well. I thought that was spot on. And, my point to him, Andrew, about we are not seeing this. We do not look coached. And I don't think anyone could have watched us today and thought that we were well structured and well coached, because I don't believe we are. That's just the kind of personal feeling of how it looks to me, Andrew. I don't believe that we look good at all. And that was my point to him. And he says, well, we look good in training. I don't give a fuck what we look like in training when we produce that on a match day. I'm really sorry, and I'm sorry about the language, but that's the God's honest truth. Brandon Barker was allegedly magnificent in training every week, and look how far that got him. So no, I'm not really interested in that. You only see the outcome. Yeah, but when the outcome's that bad, everybody's going to question what you're actually doing in training. So no, I don't buy it at all, I'm afraid. And sometimes, unfortunately, the nature of what we do and what we're expected to do, and I would never sit here and say that I speak for anyone, because I don't believe that I do, but fans, quite rightly, look at Davey and I and ask us to ask the questions. We're not the only fan media in there, but we are the ones that are looked to ask those. And sometimes you get it right, sometimes you don't, Andrew, and that's the truth of it. But on a day like today, sitting going, well, Russell, what do you take out of the game and how do we prepare for Hibs isn't going to cut it, I'm afraid. So you need to sometimes be a bit more direct and make it clear about what, is expected of him, and where the fans' beliefs are and where our feelings are. And it's not like we were rude. It's not like we were, unfair with him. We asked them what the majority of the fans are feeling. And by the way, as I said, and you've been in that position before, that walk from the gantry to the press room, we were stopped by multiple people telling us, get this guy out of this club, telling us, make it clear how we feel, tell him this, tell him that. And it's never easy. It really isn't. And it was a short press conference today, because I think the press team realised the tone of not only the press conference as a whole of fan media, but also the professionals that are in there as well, Chris Jack, Andy Newport and stuff like that. None of them believe in anything that he's telling us. He's went from blaming kickoff time, blaming the amount of games, blaming the team, blaming Hamza Egaman, blaming Nico Raskin. Today it was the referee's fault. There was, 3 things wrong and everything else. Not once has Russell Martin said, by the way, this might be a Russell Martin problem. He's talking about Nico Raskin having to earn the trust back and everything else. What about him earning the trust of the Rangers support? Because I'm sorry, he comes across as being somebody that Rangers fans won't trust. And that's maybe awkward, but it's also the truth. There's an arrogance there that when you're winning, you can pull off magnificently. Steven Gerrard was quite an arrogant guy, Andrew, but he could pull it off because he backed it up. And yeah, it took time, but we all saw where we were going with it. And he eventually delivered an unbeaten championship. This guy can't even win a game in Scotland. He's got no right to be arrogant about anything.
Yeah. I want to say, from my point of view, I'm a fan more than anything else. You guys, you and Kenny press gang me into editing this podcast, just for a couple of weeks, nearly 2 years ago now. But I, as you say, Stevie, I've been in that position. I've done that walk when it's not gone well. And you walk past a good number of fans in order to get from the gantry back down to the press room. A good number of people will stop you and say, lads, you got to tell him. You let him know. And so, from my perspective, I thought you and Davey were spot on with the questions that you asked. You're a fan media. Ultimately, you are there to represent the fans. You can represent your own views as well, but you need to represent the fans' views. And I think you were spot on with that. I think in terms of the mood, from the support in the stadium to the guys in the group chats to people on Twitter, you're not going to match everyone's views, but you're going to match the majority of them. And you guys have done that, because there's almost no one that I can find who's like, no, Russell Martin's the guy who's going to take us forward here. Your point about earning trust is exactly right, because if Nico Raskin apparently needs to earn, the fans and his teammates' trust back, what does Russell Martin need to do? Because he's demonstrated nothing so far to make me think, oh no, I've got a reason to back this guy. He's the one. There's been nothing so far from this manager, first team coach, to say, yes, this is the one I want to back. This is the man. And he's been backed. He's been given the resources. He's been given the players. He's been given all the advantages that managers before him have not had. And he has absolutely failed to deliver on pretty much any metric you can throw at him, whether it's winning games, whether it's demonstrating a style of football, whether it's just stringing together good performances even. Because it's not like you can point to a series of good performances and we've just been unlucky, or good passages of play where it's just not come off for us. We've seen nothing to show us that this is the way forward. And I mean, it's that reason alone that you have to say it is not going to work out long term here. It's not feasible. It's not sustainable. And if we go into this game against Hibs and the worst happens, as I think the majority of Rangers fans fear that it will, then the mood is going to get extremely poisonous, because then you're going into the Europa League run. You got to sell some tickets for that at some point. And I don't think a large number of people are going to be signing up to witness what is shaping up to just be a humiliation. No one wants that. No one wants to see that.
No. Just a thank you to David McFarlane for his generation and donation to the pod. Also, thanks to Kimberly Neal, who sent a donation to the vlog work this afternoon. And, people that do that, we really appreciate it. It's not necessary. Nick as well, thank you. We really appreciate it. Really appreciate everybody doing that. So thank you very much for everybody that does that. Look, Andrew, I don't know what to say. I think, we're at that point where I think every single Rangers fan is now waiting for that news from the club, that statement from the football club that says, what's going to happen next. Sadly, we're here already. So I think that's the point we're at. It's not pleasant. Nobody wanted us to be in this position. I'm not interested in whether we wanted them or anything else like that. All I'm really interested in what happens in the football park for Rangers and what happens next. I think we need to act quickly, and we think we need to make that change. It's not a question of, Stevie, who would you get in? There's no obvious answers. Go and get Steven Gerrard. That's what these guys are paid for. You made a mistake, fix it. Otherwise, stop sticking your head in the sand and expecting it to get better quickly when every single sign on the football pitch is that it's not. So make the change, do it quickly, maybe be able to, salvage something, get the players playing and get it done quickly. So that's where we are, Andrew. I don't think there's any point in saying anything other. Today was absolutely desperate. A team that looked so fragile, that looked completely devoid of ideas, it looked devoid of shape, it didn't have anything about them at all. So the longer this continues, the more that it will only get worse, in my opinion. So we're just going to need to wait and see. But I would hope that people realise this isn't just a one-off game reaction. This is too many red flags. This is, we've tried to stick with it, and it's almost laughable somewhat that after 3 months you can say, go and get this done, go and get it changed, and things like that. But how long do you persist with it, and how worse does it have to be before you make that change? So for me it's one of those things that has to be done, Andrew, and quickly. So if people will maybe think differently, and we've had a lot of criticism of being negative, and and it's depressing podcasts and everything else, I absolutely get that. It can only be truthful on what we're saying. And it would be wrong of us to come on here and say, well, there's things to build on, and there's, you know, there's signs of growth, and there's signs of this and that. There isn't. It's it needs fixed, and fixed quickly. So make the change and do it now.
Yeah, we've talked about this in the past before, and you know, we've had discussions internally as well. All we can do on this podcast is talk about the reality. All we can talk about is the results. And we've said plenty of times in the past, we'd love to come on and say things are wonderful at Rangers. We would love to come on and just talk about wins. Because frankly, we're all fans. We want to be talking about Rangers winning things. We want to be doing that. We've seen nothing to give us that hope. And we shouldn't, I think, ever try and sugarcoat things. We are always going to be here to just voice our own personal views and try and reflect the views of the fans as well. I think we do that. But it was terrible today. And as you say, Stevie, it's not just today. This is the culmination of the past 11 games. We've not seen anything to give us hopes or joy here. So change needs to be made soon. I think it's the only way that you're going to salvage this season. And if we don't see that change happening, then you're tying yourselves to an anchor that's going to drag you down.
Yeah, look, we're in 10th, 5 games, 3 goals, 0 wins. I don't think we need to justify our opinion. Lots of people asking in the comments, is he going, etc. He at this moment in time, it's just rumours. Nothing is confirmed or even being speculated, apart from WhatsApps and stuff like that. At some point, WhatsApp will be correct. Let's hope it's soon. Not much more we can say, Andrew, apart from thank you to everybody that's joined us, everybody that's watching tonight. Appreciate all the support on the podcast, everybody that's become members, everybody that's donated. I really, really appreciate it. If you haven't liked and subscribed, please do. We really, really appreciate everyone's support. And you know what, Andrew, I would love to be able to come on here, love to be able to come on Monday Night Show and talk about, you know, positivity and just want to watch Rangers winning, because I've been watching this club and going for 30 years, and it's, you know, this is a hobby and I absolutely love it. But Jesus, man, it's difficult at times. It really, really is. You know, thank you for everybody's support. We really appreciate it.
Yep, 13,000 folk watching. No, there'll be a chunk of fans of other teams, but thank you. You know, you're helping the channel grow as well. We appreciate that. It's never easy to do these pods, and it's not easy to do the vlogs as well, Stevie. So, you know, from me, speaking on behalf of the other fans, I do appreciate it, mate. Even if, you know, you and Davey combined made the glare a little unbearable. But, you know, you can't have everything. For me, I'm just a guy who would love to see Rangers winning football games. It's all I really ever want to see. And just not seeing it at the moment. We need to be seeing that soon, because it is not sustainable for things to continue as they are now. Folks, we cannot thank you enough. Your support means that we can do things like this. It means we can do breaking news podcasts. It means that for our members, we've got a Jock Wallace documentary that's nearly an hour long. If you do want to reflect on some happier times, you know, there's a double treble winner right there. And that's much more fun than anything that Rangers are putting out for you at the moment. So can't thank you guys enough for support. I always say it. I'm always going to say it again. You guys are the reason that we continue to do what we do. Your support's been magnificent. So thank you guys so much. We appreciate everyone tuning in on a dreary Saturday night. Thank you all so much. And yeah, until we talk to you again, folks, bye for now. The Four
Lads podcast is sponsored by Rhino Express, Clydeview Joinery, Athol Industrial Solutions Limited, and CSD Air Conditioning, in partnership with Black Rooster and Art of Gold. Thank you for listening to or watching the podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show.